Hopefully I'm bright enough in here.
See, everybody, we're now live, and Eric's making a mess of his parents' house.
And I've got one of my favorite things ever, candy corn. Oh, dear Lord, I'm dropping it all over the place. So I don't know if you've ever had somebody on your eat while I'm doing this, but my mother would say, "Don't talk with your mouth full." So I'll be careful not to do that.
Oh, sorry, we already had somebody eating dinner on our program once.
Eating dinner? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
we've had eating dinner, we've had driving, we've had everything on our program. Fire
And I think
alarms, driving, going through Taco Bell, eating dinner, in the dark, in the light. We've been all over.
I also figured for this event that I would wear my chroma key green shirt. So
Yeah, but that doesn't look very chroma key green.
it's like really brightly green.
Is the chroma key wallet QAD green or is it blue? There's some that are blue.
Ours is very green. We have a pretty good key. It needs a little bit more uplight though.
Yeah.
If we have this rectangle on the floor, and if you're not exactly right in that rectangle, then you're gonna have problems because there's a shadow that goes underneath your arm. So if you're not right there, and I am one of those people of the three of us that are on staff. I'm the one that always goes outside the box, and I keep telling them they need to get some sort of taser and shock me when I get too close to the wall. Because I don't really know that I'm doing it. I got to pay more attention. So.
Or like the squatting incident.
Yes, we have robotic cameras. Some of our cameras in the studio are robotic. So that time it was set for Cassie Hyder, who's now at KWTV in Oklahoma City. So I think she's like 5'4". She's going to kill me. So the camera was set. And so the director, all the director sees is green. So the director's not necessarily going to know unless they consciously go and enter the preset for that person. So it was just set for her from before.
Oops.
And then when you're on live TV, you just got to make fun of yourself if you get into a situation like that.
Yeah. You almost act like it's like, oh, it's happening to me again.
You
But
got to get through it and make light of the situation. Otherwise, there's nothing worse than awkward television.
or people throwing candy corns on their desks.
I know, right here. Good stuff.
Okay, I can make something. I turned my mic off. Okay. Turn my camera on. Ooh.
Heinz traditional steak sauce.
I have a packet of that. I don't know why.
Dude, you're in Iowa. and you have Heinz steak sauce. I have never seen such a thing, and I've lived in the Midwest all but 5 years of my life.
I saw this. We're going off basis, but we don't care.
I know.
I actually saw it in a Walmart once, and I bought a whole thing of it. I'm like, oh, it tastes so good. And then I didn't like it anymore, and so I went back to my A1. So.
That's my go-to.
So yeah. Welcome to Food Time. We're gonna talk about food the rest of the night.
It is. With your guest, Julia Child here, we are going to talk about making some lobster. No, actually not. That's just a little bit of the Julia Child impression that I can do. Don't ask for any more because I'll have to charge.
Oh boy. Sorry, viewers that are watching this. Welcome to craziness.
That's the way that I think about it is, especially in morning television, is you always have to have one piece of the show that is really memorable. And if the show is the exact same every time, then people are going, it's too predictable of a show. It's going to get boring. People aren't going to be that interested in it. So the way that I always think about it is there's got to be at least one part of the show that is memorable to the point where someone's going to get to work or to get to school, and they're going to say, "Oh my God, did you see Eric Sorensen on Channel 8 this morning?" And the person's going to say, "No, I was watching Channel 4, or I was watching Channel 6, and I missed it." "Oh, well, you got to watch Channel 8. That's how you're going to get viewers, is by having that memorable time. So.
Is this the only time you've been on morning television during your time, either the long time in Rockford or the time you were in Texas?
Well, I started in tiny Lufkin, Texas. When I graduated in 1999, I started doing weekends, and we were a really small station, so all we had was weekend and chief, so we had a two-man team. My chief meteorologist at the time, Jeff Gerber, got a job in Montgomery, so within like 9 months of me out of college, I was the chief meteorologist. And then about a year and a half later, I had the opportunity to work at KLTV, which was kind of like the bigger ABC station that covered like the majority of the market. So, and I was on the morning show, so I was on 2 different affiliates at once. So I was there for about 3.5 years, and then I did about 2 years, 2.5 years in Rockford doing mornings before I became the chief there. And now I'm back on mornings again.
Yeah, but we digress, because now we're actually going to start the program, because it's now 7 o'clock. So, welcome to Craziness with Eric. He's going to cause me trouble. I'm going to have gray hair after this episode.
Hey,
in fact, I already have it. That's why my camera's not on. Now, it was earlier, but too bad. So this is Polygon Issuance number 27. We're doing this program on Friday, September 26th, 2014. And I look outside right now. It's sunny. Well, it was sunny. The sun's down now. As the days are getting shorter, we'll soon be doing this when I won't see any light outside at all.
I am the only person, well, anybody who does morning weather, morning television. I am one of the few people on the planet that is actually liking the fact that it's getting darker early, which means that when it gets to my bedtime, it will be dark out, and I will enjoy it. So there you go.
Yeah, that means he's crazy.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because he eats his lunch at like 7 a.m., and he has dinner at like noon.
Yeah, about 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then I'm in bed by 5. That sounds about right.
And luckily, this week he wasn't working, we think.
Oh, I was up at 1:30 this morning.
Oh, so you were working today and then went up to...
Diet Coke right there. It's going to keep me going through this little caffeine. I got to make it until like usually 8:30 on the weekends at least. I'm quite the party animal.
Yeah, 8:30. That means he's an old person. He's gonna creak himself to bed, going, oh.
Mm-hmm. My folks are in their 70s, and I beat them to bed every night now.
That's sad. So anyway, now we have to ask the interesting, boring questions of how many? Oh well, we can think of.
No, I said I'm ready.
Oh dear! And now we have something crazy just happened. I'm having a cat fight outside my apartment. Oh, this is good.
with real live cats.
Yeah, that scared me.
Okay, good.
Everything happens on this program. They're having some kind of cat thing right by my air conditioner, right outside my living room window. Okay, that was enough. That kind of gave me creeps. So sorry, viewers. Everything happens on this program. So we have to ask the boring questions. Unfortunately, that was not boring. Evidently, the cat wanted to know more excitement. What got you interested in the weather to begin with?
I've always had an interest in the weather. It's always been something that intrigued me. As a kid, I was one of those kids that was easily bored. I mean, I think it started a little bit with a little bit of a fright that I thought that we were going to get hit by a tornado. I remember back my Aunt Jill was actually one of the victims of. She wasn't a victim, so she survived. But a couple of her classmates weren't so lucky when it came to the 1967 Belvidere, Illinois tornado. and that's a fantastic case study for anyone looking at how school districts deal with severe weather and tornado precautions, and also led to, some good came about that. But as a kid, she would always talk about that and how it was, one of the worst, bouts of weather that she could ever imagine. And so I was always one of those people who was really inquisitive, so I wanted to learn more and more and more about it. So that's why it's always been in my blood, and I have actual weather maps that I drew in crayon before I was 10 years old. So with the letters Doppler radar across the top.
Oh, brother. and you did grow up in and around Rockford, Illinois.
I did. I was born and raised in Rockford, Illinois, and went to school at Northern Illinois University. Go Huskies! And got a degree in meteorology in 1999. So I have been doing this for 2009. I can't even do the math. 15 years now.
15. That makes you old.
I am one of the old guys. But one of the things that I truly enjoy, especially in the fact that I've been working in smaller markets my entire career, is the fact that I get to work with some of the up-and-coming meteorologists in the business who are coming out of college, who may have one job or maybe two jobs, who can actually teach me something as I go along, versus having to remember or looking back into the 90s for my education, which was a long time ago.
Now, who were those that kind of gave you you do this and this and this back then, right out of college, or even during college, say if you interned somewhere?
I interned in Rockford at WTVO TV, which is the ABC affiliate. And I'm going to date myself because it was the NBC affiliate when I interned there. And to take you back, this was back in the Cavoris I-7 days, and even before that, I guess it was Triton I-7 was the name of the weather computer. We had to dial up and download a single radar image if we wanted to show that on the air.
Yeah.
And so how things have changed. I mean, and that was 1995, which doesn't sound like that long ago. But I worked with some fantastic meteorologists back then. Marty Hartman was the chief meteorologist at the time. He was from Fort Wayne. After Rockford, he went back to Fort Wayne to work for several years, and he's since gotten out of the business. But he was probably that was my first television station where I got an idea of how television broadcast worked, and it's changed immensely since then.
So then you talked about this earlier. You ended up in Lufkin, Texas. What got you down there for some reason? To get away from the cold weather of the Midwest and Great Lakes?
Well, here's an interesting story. Is out of college, I had 3 different job offers. And my first job offer was in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, at WQOW-TV. I went on an interview, and I had a job offer at WHBF in Rock Island, Illinois. And I had a third job offer in Lufkin, Texas, at KTRE-TV, which is what I took. So the reason I took the Texas job is I had never been there. Of course, Texas is pretty much number 2 as far as severe weather goes. And within the first couple of months of living there, I got to deal with severe weather pretty hardcore. So it was definitely the best move for me right out of college.
Now, is there any events down there, either in Lufkin or I think it's Tyler, Texas, where you went after? Yes, no?
What's that?
Of any events when you were down in Texas, either at Lufkin or when you went up to, I think it's Tyler?
Yeah, you may remember back to, I can't remember if it was 99 or 2000. I think it was 99. It was the Fort Worth, Texas tornado.
That was in 2000.
It was in 2000. So I was on the air. Of course, we were under a tornado watch in East Texas too, and the supercell storms. One of the cool things, living in East Texas was a lot of us think about the severe weather in Texas, and you think about Waco, you think about Killeen and Temple and Abilene and Dallas Fort Worth, of course. Those are where the storms are in the afternoon. The cool thing about living in East Texas is those storms would march east and they'd be in East Texas at night. So if you love lightning and you love storms at night, East Texas and western Louisiana is the place to be. So that evening we were tracking the thunderstorms out in Fort Worth, and I remember when we were an ABC affiliate, and when WFAA in Dallas got the first shots of downtown Fort Worth after that tornado, I was just mesmerized. And I couldn't believe that we weren't talking about mass casualties, looking at the damage, because, there was a Bank America tower, and then the big glass building, it was the tallest building, I think, in Fort Worth, and every window was shattered out of that as the tornado moved through. And then it did even more damage in Arlington before it lifted. So that was the big event when I was down there. I did cover a couple of tornadoes too. In fact, anybody who's a chaser will laugh at this story. When I was in Texas, and this was back in '99 or 2000, I was working at KTRE, and I went chasing, thinking that I knew what I was doing. I had a meteorology degree, and I had some sense of cockiness to me that said, all right, I'm going to go chase these storms. We're under tornado watch, and we're under a moderate risk, and I'm going to find these tornadoes. Well, I didn't really. I had a gazetteer with me, and I was listening to the radio, to the EAS reports, and we had so many tornado warnings, I couldn't find out where I was. So after a little while, I decided, all right, I'm putting myself in danger. So I turned around and started to go back toward Lufkin, and I entered the town of Marshall, Texas. I believe this is 2000. And I noticed that their leaves had all been, the trees were all defoliated. And I thought that was kind of odd. There was steam coming up, and the highway was just covered with leaves. And I get over the hill, and all I see is destruction. There was a car lot, and every car in that Chevy dealership had its windows blown out. I looked over to the east side of the road, and there was a strip mall. So I pulled in there, grabbed my KTRE camera, put it on my shoulder. I'm taking video, right? And I'm looking through the viewfinder, and I realize that there's people in this building, and they're walking out of the cooler. So then I thought to myself, these people just survived a tornado. The first thing that they see is a camera. Do you suppose they want to see a TV camera? Is that the first thing that they want to see when they just survived a tornado? So I put down the camera, and I just started talking to these folks, and they saw it coming from across the road, and they knew. That's the thing about like Texans and people in Oklahoma. They know what to do when it comes to severe weather and tornadoes, and that was the biggest one that I had ever seen, because you could see it going off in the distance, and I was there before any of the emergency vehicles. It was really ironic.
So I assume you never did storm chase anytime after that.
Oh, no, that really cranked up my interest. And there were a couple of times that I went out with a meteorologist by the name of Morgan Palmer. He's now at Cairo 7 in Seattle. Morgan and I are great friends, and he was working in the same market at the same station that I was, and we went out several times out into central Texas, and it was crazy. We saw some great storms, but the problem was where we were in East Texas, to go out into West Texas and chase storms and then follow them back to East Texas, they turned into HPs, and we ran into some huge flash flooding events that we had to spend hours going around. So actually, no, it piqued my interest a little bit. The biggest tornado I ever saw was up here in central Illinois just a few years ago. So
now we could talk about, did Morgan have his big pipes back then?
What's that?
Morgan Palmer, because he sounds like, hi.
Okay. He's got the lowest voice that I've ever heard. It's Morgan Palmer, Channel 7 News. He's got a fantastic voice. I probably spent half of my my career trying to get a Morgan Palmer voice, but yeah, he's been a great friend of mine for the better part of 15 years now.
Yeah, I could try to get him on the program too, by the way. But anyway, I digress. So, what ended up taking you back home, more or less?
Um, I had gotten done with a contract at KLTV, and there was an opportunity for me to work doing mornings, which is the same thing I was doing in East Texas, doing mornings at the NBC affiliate in Rockford. And I thought this is my opportunity to go work in my hometown, and my folks are able to watch me on television. And keep in mind, this was way before there was streaming video online and social media and anything like that. So it was just the right thing at the right time. Now here's the interesting thing: is a lot of people in this business are really caught up on salary. I need to get paid more at my next job than I get paid now, or it's a smaller television market. I will tell you right now, when I went from Tyler, Texas to Rockford, Illinois, I took a $12,000 pay cut. But living at home meant that I never had to work. I never had to plan to take vacation to go home. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so now I could use the vacation that I earned in Rockford to go to new places, to save up and go on vacation. So it was the first time that allowed me to go on vacation, even though I was getting paid $12,000 less per year. And to be honest with you, it only took a few years before I got promoted to the chief meteorologist, and I was getting paid more than I was back in Texas. And a lot of folks say, well, you went from market 107 to market 135. Why would you do such a thing?
The hometown discount?
And to anyone who is stuck on a Nielsen list of the markets, is you have to look at the quality of life, your ability to live. It was a lot cheaper for housing. The fact that I could spend my time visiting my family. There were a lot of things that were worth more than monetary and worth more than the market size. And to be honest with you, in Rockford, Nielsen only gives the Rockford market 5 counties. Well, our broadcast coverage goes 50 miles in each direction. What do you mean it only goes to 5 counties? We had probably 600,000-700,000 people in our viewing area, even though Nielsen gave us 5 counties. So it wasn't a representative sample of what the quality of the news was or the coverage area.
And isn't it mainly because it seems like, and we're kind of going into this a little bit, that Rockford is kind of squeezed between the Quad Cities, the market I live in, Cedar Rapids, Madison, and Chicago, and even Milwaukee. There's there's this little tiny thing in the middle, and that's the reason that it would be so small when it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things is, for instance, I wish that Nielsen and I wish that television markets were based on a radius from a television station versus by counties. And for instance, Rockford is about 15 miles south of the state line. Well, the state line of Illinois and Wisconsin becomes the Madison market. But that doesn't necessarily mean that when you go over the state line into southern Wisconsin that people are watching Madison television, because that's not the case. And even in eastern Iowa versus northwestern Illinois, I mean, some people in Joe Davis County, Illinois, watch Rockford. Well, the rest of Joe Davis County may watch the Quad Cities. Well, if you're in East Dubuque, you kind of go with more of Dubuque, so you're going to watch more of the Cedar Rapids market. So it really needs to go more by town, by radius, than by county itself. So market size really doesn't mean anything at all.
Because you could have counties bouncing between markets every year, and that could get so annoying. I'm not sure you might have heard that, but anyway, so.
You kind of broke up there on me.
Okay, that sometimes there's been counties that have bounced between markets every year, so
yeah.
It doesn't really happen in this area, but it happens in a lot of the smaller markets that they can jump 15 or 20 things and then fall 20 or 20 the next year. So, I mean, when you look at it from where you are now, I mean, the Quad Cities there's quite a lot of people there, but then you get outside of the Quad Cities, and there's almost nobody left. Sorry, people in Burlington, Muscatine, and Clinton, but there, and even in maybe Sterling Rock Falls, and Galesburg even. But I mean, it's just that it makes no sense because I think it's getting time because I've heard some people thinking that maybe they need to start merging Nielsen markets or redoing them or something or other, because there's some places that there should be fewer than 210 there is now.
All right, so my proposal is, all right, so you've got affiliates all over the country. Why the heck do we need markets? Why do we need markets at all? Why can't we just say that, all right, WQAD TV, which is where I work in the Quad Cities, has X number of viewers, and they're all over in these areas, and plot them on a map. Okay? Then let the television station determine what cities are most important to cover. Why do we even need markets?
Well, for cable, more or less, or satellite. I mean, I know this, and we're kind of going off basis, but we kind of brought it up on ourselves, that back in the days of analog, and I'll give you this because this is a neat story on my end. Up here in Anamosa, where I'm at in Jones County, which is in the Cedar Rapids market, we used to get all the Quad City stations in analog perfectly. Channel 8 might have been the weakest because their tower was in Orion. The rest, I think Channel 4's was in Rock Island, I think, before they moved to Orion, and Channel 6's was in Bettendorf. You can get them easily. Well, digital comes, bloop, there they go. Now you can't get them at all. So, and I mean, and a lot of people in my area were complaining to the cable company, why can't we get the Davenport stations? Because we're in what is Nielsen calls a significantly viewed area for Quad City stations, mainly because they're part of the county. But the population is all in the western part of the county, so. But we lost that. But the interesting thing that came up was when I moved out on my own, when I first moved out on my own in 2001, for a week I did not have cable, so I used an antenna. I could get stations I never used to even get when I lived at home in Anamosa, when I was living in Cedar Rapids. I could get WREX in Rockford.
Wow.
Somewhat. I could get all the Davenport stations. I could get Mason City, Ottumwa, Des Moines. I was like, but they were on the same channels, so I'd get them some at night, some during the day, so it was a mess. But that's my interesting market story. So what kind of viewership would I be if we had antennas? I'd be in like 8 different markets or something. Yeah.
And that's actually what I do. I just receive the R over-the-air signal. I don't pay for television. It's one of those things where part of me is like, do we really need over-the-air television? It's very expensive for television stations to continue to broadcast over the air. Just when you look at the maintenance of television towers, is very expensive. But then again, I'm one of those people that believes that you shouldn't have to pay for television. So and every affiliate TV station in the country sells advertising in order to make it free.
Yeah. So we'll get to the interesting events that have occurred in the long history you were in Rockford. I think one thing comes to mind. The day of the Joplin tornado, there was a tornado that went over your station, which is on YouTube.
Yeah.
And let's say that I keep always watching it and thinking this is either really weird or silly or something or other, because you, and I think it was you, decided let's go outside in a tornado.
Actually, I did after a while to look out the back door to see what it was doing at the time. I'm going to set you back a little bit. We had our storm chaser for the station. He was our weekend meteorologist at the time, Aaron Brackett. He's now a meteorologist at KFOR in Oklahoma City. He was out chasing for us in the afternoon, and we had him on live on the air as he was chasing, and he had reported rotation. Then we lost him for whatever reason. Then we took a power hit. we came back up, and I just decided at that point, when we were tracking this right over the station, that I would just evacuate everyone. One of the things that we had done before, probably a couple of years before, is we had a contingency plan in place for if that happened. If we were going to get a tornado nearing the television station, what would we do? And we made sure that we were all on wireless mics, wireless IFBs, and we tested it out to see how far into the basement our wireless mics would be able to be picked up. So we knew how far we could go and still be heard. So when we evacuated everyone, we had the Doppler radar up, and Cindy Kalbaum, who's in Kalamazoo, Michigan now, and we kept broadcasting even though we were in the basement. And then for a while, I decided to peek outside, and the greatest part of the video is I set off the alarm for the TV station as I opened up the back door, and you can hear the wind howling, and then afterwards you can hear the very large hail that did quite a bit of damage to everyone's cars.
I assume your car.
Oh yes, I did file an insurance claim after that hailstorm. And one of the weird things was Aaron Brackett was on his way back to the station. Then we coordinated coverage, okay, for the better part, and then that was like 5 or 6 in the evening, and we coordinated coverage. And I'll be damned if we did not even know that the Joplin, Missouri tornado had happened until like 9 o'clock that night, because we were just dealing with our own severe weather, and honestly, we weren't paying attention. There wasn't. It was kind of one of those things. There is no national story in our mind that trumps our severe weather and our tornado. Little did we know what a disaster had unfolded down there.
And it seems odd that your area, when you were up in Rockford, you'd be seeing the storms come in, because your market back then, you have 5 counties. You'd start at the Mississippi River. So you'd have storms come in, and then they leave Rockford, and then they're already in the Chicago market. So you could be like done in like 2 hours or maybe 3.
Yeah, depending on how quickly they're moving, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, do you have the mindset of that in a smaller market? We'll use Rockford as an example, where you were for many years. It's not going to be a, oh my God, I'm going to be here all night long type thing, unless it just happens to be an oddity or something.
Yeah, unless you're on a warm front. I mean, there have been a couple of times in my career where you have a warm front that is putting out supercell thunderstorms all afternoon, all evening, and all night. That's happened before, and that's how we've gotten into some of our greatest flash flooding events, is sitting on that warm front. And I will tell you, and I will be honest with you, when you get a lot of helicity on a warm front, I am way more nervous than I am with a cranked up low. If you have the conditions that are right on a warm front, that's when you're going to get stuff to happen here in the upper Midwest.
Yeah, and I always complain, because in my situation with our network, we cover the whole state of Iowa. Oh, it's annoying. But so when we have to do coverage, we have to do it for every county. That could be annoying. Yep. Especially if it's sunny like it was here today, and there's a tornado warning way by Sioux City. And I'm thinking, ugh. And this happened a couple of times this year. It's like there's severe weather way far away from here, and then there's and I'm like, it's like, ugh, please. So the thing that drove me nuts, and I'm sorry, I'm talking more. The viewers hate when I talk too much, but anyway. I can remember doing severe weather coverage. This was back when I was doing my blog, my own blog, myself, for 11 straight hours. I think it was 11 or 12 straight hours. We had one round of severe weather, then it moved off, and then we had another round of severe weather that was right at the tail end of the first round. The second round started. It was nonstop. I think I had such a headache after that. And I'm like, thank God I'm not on TV for this.
Oh, there are times where you are you're going and going and going, and there is no way to take any break at all. And that's just something that happens, and you got to be ready for it. Usually, even in the weather center during the worst of severe weather days. I mean, I've got some sort of water or pop to drink, so I can get through it. And a lot of times, meteorologists are nervous to take a breath, to stop. And I was told, I mean, it's great advice from a consultant one time. Eric, you can stop. If you need to look over there at the NWS chat and you need to comprehend something, you can stop talking. You can say to the viewer, you know what, I'm getting some new information. Let me read this for just a second. Give me 1 second. And then read it and say, all right, so here's what's going on. And then translate it into the right words to your viewer. So you can do a pause and stop like that, even if you're doing this long-form coverage for severe weather.
Yeah. So, I just want to just keep talk, and it would drive me batty because the only thing that and everybody pretty much knows this. The only thing that kept me pretty much from getting a degree in meteorology is calculus. I mean, but the thing that probably would have kept me out of television was the fear of the camera, because I just can't stand. That's why my camera's not on.
Oh, come on, man.
That and the fact that my bandwidth, because the last time I had my camera on, the Hangout crashed on me, which was not fun. But anyway.
The way that I think about it is, yeah, calculus was terrible. At NIU, I think I took calculus. Just to put it in perspective, I think I was in calculus for like 5 or 6 semesters. So that kind of told you how I had to retake things. And that almost did me in. But to be honest with you, I got a math minor pretty much by the time I was done, and you get through it some way, somehow. And as far as being on television, I've always kind of figured that the television camera itself that's sitting in front of me is just connected to the director. I don't have any evidence that it's even broadcasting, that it's even going over the air. I don't even know if anybody's watching. No one can laugh, or if they're throwing something at your TV, I'm not going to know about it. So that's why I just have never gotten that nervous bug ever when I'm on the air. And even in the mornings now, when I'm on the air on Good Morning Quad Cities, I'm just talking to my my news anchors on the other side of the studio.
Yeah, whether they're listening to you or not is another story.
Of all anchors that I have had, these are probably some of the best anchors at listening to the forecast.
Yeah. Do you get annoyed when you get like, okay, Eric, what's the forecast? And then they're all like on computers or something.
Well, they're always working while I'm doing the forecast too, and a lot of times they're not there. I mean, that's their opportunity to take a break. For instance, I may have 7-8 minutes in between, maybe even 10 minutes in between my hits, which may allow me to go upstairs and go pour some more coffee, or microwave something in the break room, and then hoof it back into the studio. Well, that's also their only opportunity, between 4:30 and 7 a.m. to actually get off the set. So we've got it structured kind of in our skeleton rundown that there are some weathercasts where I start with a 3-shot, but I come back to a 2-shot, so that there's the ability for an anchor to actually leave during weather, be gone for a commercial break. Well, you know what? That gives them 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, so it can flow pretty quickly during a morning show.
Sure. If it's not flowing quickly, then there's something wrong with the format.
So we can discuss, besides the event that we described, the tornado in 2011, was there any other events in Rockford during your time there that you can remember covering?
We had a couple of flood events that were really bad. That was actually, they both occurred before I was the chief meteorologist, though, so I really wasn't in charge of the coverage. We did have one situation. I've never had a fatality due to a tornado in my 15-year career. However, I have had one fatality due to a flash flood, and that occurred in Rockford. We had pretty significant HP come through, and there was very little steering wind. It took like 2 hours, and we had like 6 inches of rain. So we had flash flood warnings, and I'm rattling off roads that are closed. And what had happened was the Canadian National Railroad tracks east of town had washed out. And some people had reported just west of Mulford Road, they got a 911 calls saying the tracks are washed out. And it surfaced that a Rockford Police Department cruiser's dash camera, got the guy walking out in front, looking at the rails, came back in, reported, sure enough, yes, the rails are washed out. Make sure Canadian National knows. Well, 20 minutes, half hour, an hour later, here comes a freight train, and it's an ethanol train, and it's moving westbound. And the engines made it over these rails, but the cars did not. Sparked, boom, you had a huge fire, and there were people that were sitting at the crossing gates, and there was one lady that didn't survive because of the fire. So that was due directly to flash flood and pretty much negligence on the railroad's part.
A flash flood slash fire.
Yeah, there was a wash. The flash flooding took the train tracks out, and the train came through, started a fire, killed a lady. It's very sad.
So then we can discuss all the people that you worked with when you were in Rockford. I know we discussed a few earlier.
Yeah.
Before or after. So how many people have you mentored and are at better stations than you are right now? That's kind of putting the like, oh, I'm. But so how many of them have gone on to do better things from when you were?
I think everybody has gone on to do to further their career. I would also be able to argue that nobody's at a better station than I am, because it took me 15 years, and I'm at the best TV station that I've ever imagined. And the emphasis that my television station has in weather is second to none. One of the reasons why I came to the Quad Cities several months ago for this job doing morning weather is the fact that during the Joplin tornado, during the Washington tornado, during the Moore tornado, that we ran the coverage live, and we sent a meteorologist in our satellite truck, and we went down there. And we made it a local story. That's how you win in weather. And I don't know of stations in big markets that do that. But you have a station in market number 100 that does that. So that's why I'll be a part of that. And to be honest with you, one of my friends, Aaron Brackett, works at the Tribune station in Oklahoma City. So actually on my desktop I can program in and I can watch him live on the computer. But another one of the great people that I've worked with, Joe Estolfi, was my weekend meteorologist up until a few months ago in Rockford, and he is now at Weather Nation in Denver. So he went right from Rockford to a national perspective. So you can go from market 136 to national. It's possible. You just have to make sure that you're doing the right thing.
So it does help, though, too, that WQAD, where you're at now, is a Tribune station with a lot of stations around.
Yeah, but we were a local TV station before that, and local TV was spending the same amount of money that Tribune is.
Yeah, unlike the station you used to work at, Channel 13.
Yeah. And that has to do with the fact that...
Oh, he's about to say nasty things, so get prepared, everybody.
No. Well, smaller television stations have less leverage. In Quincy Newspapers owns, I think, 12 or 13 stations in smaller markets. So there is a smaller pie versus a local TV or Sinclair or Gannett or Tribune. where you've got a big pie and you're able to negotiate better rates. So it gets a little bit easier to have more toys to play with and toys to work with versus smaller station for a smaller ownership group, which may not be able to do a lot of the things that you would hope. So.
And is that kind of why you sort of wanted to leave Rockford to then float down the Rock River to Moline?
Hey, I have put my butt in a tube and floated down the Rock River. The reason that I wanted to move on is I was a teacher in Rockford, and I love that. I love going to talk to children about weather and teaching the meteorologists up and coming, and then they go off to bigger and greater things. But this is it was an opportunity for me to go back to mornings. I love doing morning weather because I have a morning personality, and also I'm working with two news anchors who have 15, 25 years of experience. And so I was kind of doing the math in my head the other day, and the three of us who are on Good Morning Quad Cities have over 50 years of experience, 60 years of experience. It's incredible when you look at the knowledge that my anchors have. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I'm not the oldest person. I can learn something. So that's what drew me in right then and there.
Especially for a market in size 100 where a lot of people, it's like a revolving door, especially even in the medium-sized markets. People want to get to the higher markets.
Correct. And I have friends who are in larger markets who have people who have 2 or 3 years of experience who are sitting on the desk. And we don't do that. And we're in market 100. We have an investigative unit. Well, I don't know of many TV stations in market number 100 that have investigative units. We've got a reporter who has 35 years of experience. I don't know of a market 100 station that does that. My morning director has 25 years at the TV station. My second morning director has like 10, 15 years of experience. So that says something when your television station is treating its employees so well that they don't want to leave in 10, 20, and 30 years. And that's what I want to be a part of. It doesn't matter what your size market is. It doesn't matter if you're in Moline, Illinois, or Bismarck, North Dakota. If you look at the bio page of that television station and you can see that people are there, and you can see that, oh, people aren't right out of college. Maybe a couple of people are. Our weekend meteorologist is right out of college. She's good. She's going to be really, really good on the air in a couple of years.
So this is pretty much going to be you're probably not going to move from WQAD anytime soon. So this could be your retirement job.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I was at my last job for 10 years and 8 months. I could be here for 10 years and 8 months too. I don't think I'm not that old. I mean, I may have some gray hair. That's not going to take me right up to retirement age, but.
But do you see yourself staying in the Quad Cities 10 years, and will there even be a lot of television meteorologists in 10 years? Because there's talk that a lot of TV stations may start dropping news and weather and sports altogether.
No, news, weather, and sports makes money, and it will for many years. There, of course, are fewer viewers into the evenings. There are more choices that people have. And so in television, that means that we have to be able to market ourselves in different ways than broadcast television. I think in as few as 2 or 3 years down the road, people are going to be able to order what they want as far as news and weather. So it'll be online, it'll be on some sort of app where people will order, I want to watch this, I want to watch this, I want to watch this, and I want some weather, and I want more in-depth weather, and I want a really in-depth weather, and there'll be commercials that are put in between. So it'll be an on-demand sort of thing. People are not going to wait around until 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night to get the news. That's not going to work. But what's interesting is morning news will probably always be there because you're going to turn on your TV and it's probably going to be on in the background while you're getting the kids ready. that's going to last a little bit longer.
Because there's a lot more people watching it in the morning.
Yeah, morning. The morning audience is getting bigger, so
So it's going to be to the point that they may start possibly dropping off evening newscasts to put on longer mornings. So how long will it be before they add a 4 a.m. half hour?
except in the evening, producing local television news is cheaper than buying a syndicated program, unless you're buying a syndicated program that's just a throwaway.
With mornings increasing, do you think you're going to end up starting news at 4 a.m. soon?
Probably.
How about
Yeah,
3 a.m.?
when I was out let's see, earlier this week I had a photo shoot, so it was before dawn, and we were out and about in the Quad Cities at 4:30 in the morning, and it was amazing how much traffic there is. And when you look at how many people, how many flights leave the Quad City International Airport at 6 a.m., you realize, oh, well, guess what? All of those people had to be up at 4 a.m. So there will be more and more viewers earlier and earlier.
Now, I'm not sure, does WQAD have a traffic reporter, or does anybody in the Quad Cities have one?
We do not. We use the Department of Transportation cameras, and which are just fine for us because the bridges are what's most important on the morning commute.
Especially for those that may not know that they're going to be building that new bridge over the Mississippi where I-74 is now.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a real mess for a while.
Yeah, there's 3 interstate bridges in the Quad Cities, and there's 2 other bridges that you can cross. So what they're going to do is just replace the bridge. And what's interesting is it's one of the few places in the world where you have twin suspension bridges, and I think that's really, really neat. But they've outlived their lifespan. Anybody who drives across them realizes that the interstate has to go to 50 miles an hour, and it's about that narrow. And it's just not going to work, especially in the wintertime. I've been told that I will grow some gray hair traveling across the I-74 Mississippi Bridge in the winter.
How about try the Arsenal Bridge?
I love that bridge because that bridge was built in 1896, and if it's still standing, if it was built in 1896, I'll go across that. It can creak and make all the noise it wants. If it's been there for that long, it's not going anywhere.
I always like driving down to the Arsenal Bridge because it's so cool, but I digress. We're getting too localized. So.
The Quad Cities is a fantastic place. If you've never visited, or if you're driving through, don't go the way Google's taking you. Go across the 74 bridge. It's more fun.
Yeah, don't. It's not fun. The only thing that I'd say, because in the market you are in now, it's almost like you compare Rockford. It's tiny, and you have the current market. It's like elongated right along the Mississippi River.
It is. It is. We go from Galena, Illinois, down to Keokuk, Iowa, which is down almost to the Missouri border. So, I mean, that's a long distance, and it's long and narrow because our market in the Quad Cities is really close to the Cedar Rapids market, which is about a 40-minute drive to the west. So it's an interesting place that it's long and drawn out like that.
So how would you try and forecast for the market you're in now and in the Quad Cities with it being so varied from north to south, but not really from east to west?
Well, much like when I was in Texas, in East Texas, we had an even longer. If you look at the Tyler Longview market, it goes from northeast Texas all the way down half hour north of Houston. So it's pretty huge, and you have to take it into zones. So that we've got 3 forecast zones that we work with in the Quad Cities. So we take the north, the central, and the south, and kind of split it up into 3 different forecast markets, if you will.
In this market, we do have 4 zones.
I mean, and you have to do that. Also, that gives us an opportunity to say the names of hometowns. Everyone likes to hear their hometown be mentioned, and that gives us an opportunity to say more of that and to give more personal forecasts for that.
And I know that I'm not sure you've been around for any severe weather yet. There's been a few events, but not many since you've been.
It's pretty quiet, yeah.
I know the one a couple of weeks ago when the radar in Davenport got knocked out, that you were blogging that out. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I might have been the first one to actually mention this, along with you finding out that the Weather Service had their radar knocked out, and I was the first to tweet about it,
Mm-hmm.
and they confirmed it to me, and I was like, "Yay! I'm so excited." So, but those were nasty storms, by the way, with a lot of lightning.
Yeah,
Seems
we
like,
had a lot of electricity, that's for sure.
is it comparable that so in the brief time you've been in the Quad Cities that it's almost comparable to some of the storms back in the days in Texas? At
Yeah,
least,
I mean that's certainly true. I mean, we've had more lightning, I think, than I can remember in years past. However, it's been a very, very dry summer. It's kind of odd that it was dry and cool versus dry and hot, which is what you would normally think. And even my casual brain thinks, all right, well, if we're dry, then that's going to increase the chance that we're going to get hot because the soils are going to be dry and it's going to be easier to heat up the atmosphere. But that really wasn't the case this summer because of the progressive nature of the northwest flow.
so we talked about this earlier. So we're looking at the forecast now for the next, let's say, the next week and a half, 2 weeks. It pretty much looks like the next couple of days will be warm. It's supposed
Yeah,
to be around 80 degrees here this weekend, which will be pleasant. It might be the last time it's 80 degrees. So,
yeah. Much of the upper Midwest will be about 10 degrees above normal for about 5 days through about Wednesday or Thursday. That's when the pattern will change. But even what's interesting is you look out at the Climate Prediction Center or the what do they call it now? The Weather Prediction Center.
yeah.
Uh, you look out at the data, and they're still hinting at it being warmer than normal. And even if you look at next week's system, as you get the low to spin up in the Central Plains, it's really not tugging down stuff that's that cold. I mean, yeah, you can see the 540 line on some of the maps, but I mean that's not out of the ordinary for October. So it's not like we're going to revert back down to something that's way below normal. When you look at like, all right, the 80s that we've got now in Iowa and Illinois are 10 degrees above normal. Well, we're not going to go 10 degrees below normal to offset that just yet.
Yeah. No, I don't want any more 30s, thank you, for a while. But unfortunately, those are on the way.
It is.
So anyway, we'll round this up with the shout outs. I never told you
Yeah.
about this. So
Uh-oh.
so you have to shout out something like a photograph, a person, a place, a thing, former coworkers, funny stories about coworkers. So I'll do that. I'll do mine first. So
Okay.
you come up with funny stories or whatever about former coworkers, including a certain one that you mentioned in our test earlier. But anyway, okay, I'm going to screen share something.
Okay.
Shout
Ready.
out while you think of that of one. So I am going to. Well, I'm going to find it. Just a second. Here it is. Okay, now I got to share it. So this was, if you can see this,
Yeah.
this was the sunset about 30 minutes. In fact, it was less than that. It was about 15 minutes before we started.
Beautiful.
And you can see what a lovely dumpster.
Oh, I can't. Oh, I do see it if I look really close.
Yeah. So this is the lovely sun. And you can see some of these trees that have lost some of their leaves.
Oh,
I'm not sure if this tree is half dead or not, but a lot of the these little tiny little leaf trees have lost quite a bit of their leaves. They're usually the first to go. So, but it looks really pretty outside. A lot of yellow. Some of the maples are starting to change. Ashes are starting to. So
yeah,
some of the trees are shriveling up a little bit. The leaves are shriveling, and I'm wondering if it might be the borer. But
or the fact that we're in a drought, and that's so different from where we started in the spring season when we were very, very wet. I mean, we had what was it, the fifth highest Mississippi River crest in the Quad Cities, and then we went right into a dry pattern. And that lasted all winter. No one could have foreseen that. So
So,
let me do a shout out.
or a funny story.
Funny story. A couple of weeks ago, instead of saying it'd be great to go take a dip in the lake, I said it'd be a great weekend to go take a dump in the lake, and that made it over the air. Luckily, it did not get YouTubed, and I did not record it. There's one time in Texas, I had my wisdom teeth removed, and my news director was adamant that I do it on a Friday, and that I had to be at work on Monday. So, like, I had packed my cheeks with gauze and everything, and at KLTV at the time, we had the Weather Center over on one side of the studio, and the morning set was on the other side. So, I'm there in the Weather Center getting everything ready, and Morgan and Jennifer, they come into the studio, and they're like, "Hey, how are you?" And I yelled at them across the studio. So our show starts, and since they're on the other side of the studio, we always had double boxes, okay? So anchors are here, Eric Sorensen's here. And so as soon as we got to the double box, and I hadn't looked at myself, I realized that I had still had the cotton balls in my cheeks, and I was like this, talking like this. And the anchors just lost it. Absolutely lost it. And then they said that I didn't get my wisdom teeth pulled, that I just spent too much time at the buffet over the weekend. It was absolute hilarity, and that's one of the cool things is I would never ever trade this for doing taped weather ever. Live television is great, and that's the one drawback is in the future, I don't know if we're going to have live television anymore. Or at least, aside from severe weather coverage, people aren't going to wait around for the news. And I don't know how many of us are going to be doing live weather. Or are we going to be doing weather every hour and putting that on the web so that it's something current versus live? But bloopers are always fun. I have never had one that's gone viral. So that's good.
Do you want one to go viral? I'm not talking about like right now.
As long as it's me not saying a bad word. And I don't really like the fact that now it seems that it's going viral, that people are putting, like, trying to punk reporters who are doing live shots. I don't think that's funny. But a legitimate weather blooper, it could happen. It could happen on Monday.
So for example, let's say this coming winter, they put you outside, and you slip and fall on the ice.
I don't know if that part will happen, but one of the cool things at WQAD is we do Snow Desk, which is a specially built news desk that is put out in the snow, and we will be doing our newscast live when it snows. And there's actually a set built right next to the station on 16th Street, all ready to go.
I don't think you're going to like that already. You'll be
long underwear and snow pants. I've already got them ready. And my house, I live a block away from the TV station, so I suppose I could go and warm up.
Or you could always just say we're going to do it at my house now.
We probably have enough cable too. That could probably work. I would not be opposed to that. I've always tried to figure out if there's a way to chroma key myself at home, in which case I would probably be forecasting the weather on some beach somewhere, which would be nice. ABC just announced that they're opening an ABC affiliate in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I was thinking maybe I should learn Spanish, Español. Es muy peligroso. Está muy calor. Learning a little bit more so that I could apply for that job.
Now, thinking of that, and we're kind of going off base again, with a lot of Spanish speakers moving into the Midwest, do you wonder if they're getting underserved with the lack of people that can speak Spanish in this area, or even anywhere in the Midwest outside the big cities?
I would certainly, if there is a meteorology student out there, I would certainly advocate learning Spanish. That's just going to open your opportunities when you get out of college, because it is a growing segment of the population. Broadcasters are going to realize that if that's a larger part of the population, then they need to cater to it because there's money in advertising. And then they're going to look for meteorologists out there who has any opportunity to speak Spanish. Can I see anyone? There's not going to be enough. So if there's any meteorology students out there, to definitely go that route and to try to make yourself as bilingual as possible.
So I see you buying Rosetta Stone soon.
Or at least going to Cancun and learning through osmosis and a Mai Tai.
Yeah, the only thing you'll learn is I want more, please.
They have some pretty amazing mojitos down there in Playa del Carmen, I will say from experience.
Okay,
Yep.
and since he wants to talk about alcohol now, well,
It's Friday night. Come on, man.
yeah, and you're on this program. That's kind of sad.
I tell you what. It's very, very fun. But I would not trade this for the world. Well, one of the things, and we talked a little bit about this beforehand, was I came into like a firestorm. Channel 8 made the decision to go in a different direction from one of the veterans who was in the market, who is actually going to your stomping ground, and I have the utmost respect for Terry Swales. I didn't replace him. I knew I was leaving Rockford before anybody made decisions, and I just happened to go into a place that's going to offer me more. And you know what? I've been in situations, I've had jobs where I was not renewed. And that's something that happens to everyone in this business. I'm glad that he's on his feet and he's really close by, and we'll see each other at the Davenport Weather Service meetings in the future. So
Now, speaking of that, and this will probably be one of the last things. Now I got to think of this. In this area, the Quad Cities area, Eastern Iowa, Western Illinois, there, why isn't there a NWA thing in this chapter in this area anymore? Because it went away many years ago.
I don't know. I'm a member of NWA nationally, but I didn't know that there was one at one time.
The only chapter in Iowa now is in Des Moines. So I was like wondering, because there's so many people, because it's been 7-8 years since it's been around. So I was just wondering about that, because it seemed, because it used to cover my market, my television market, and the Quad City market. So
Let's do it. I mean, I know quite a few of the meteorologists in the Cedar Rapids Waterloo market, and I think that's a great idea. I mean, maybe we could work on something, because I'd love to catch up with my friends Mark Schnackenberg up in Waterloo, and of course Joe and Kai and Justin at KCRG. So all great people, and I'd love to all get together more. It'd be cool.
yeah, we're gonna have to work on that, because that just seems kind of not good. That it's like, well, we have to go to Des Moines. Well, I don't want to do that. Go to meetings in Des Moines. That's a 2.5-hour drive.
Yeah.
And I think wasn't there one when you were up in Rockford, or there wasn't one there either?
Oh, it must have been before my time there, because I don't remember when.
So if you wanted to be in an NWA chapter when you were in Rockford, you would have had to either probably go to Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
Well, that's El Succo.
Yeah,
So
I didn't want to drive all the way there for that. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that'll end this program for tonight since it's a little bit after 8 o'clock Central Time. So.
Thank you for the opportunity to be candid, and I love being able to have a conversation where we can share our love of weather. I mean that's the cool thing, and being able to share different ideas. I was able to watch some of your previous webcasts too, and it's really cool how you can learn things from other people in different perspectives, I think.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that.
And I'll yes, you might be interested in this because next week's our severe weather review. Oh
Mhm.
brother, which is just going to be us local people. And so, because I noticed that the Weather Service in Des Moines did their tornado count for the state of Iowa, it was updated. 55 tornadoes so far this year.
Wow.
That's more than the last 2 years combined.
Yeah, and that's surprising because there aren't any real big severe weather outbreaks that come to mind. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
10, 9, something like that.
I suppose you have to include like the eastern Nebraska um, outbreaks that occurred. Well, a couple that occurred back to back also affected Northwest Iowa. Those are
Yeah.
the only I can really think of.
So, but yeah, and all of them were EF zeros, ones, and twos. We
Hmm.
haven't had any strong tornadoes yet. And I say yet for the fact that last year we had the October outbreak that had two EF4s. So I always have that in the back of my mind, and I think you would too. We're going to have at least one more severe weather event this fall,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
people are going to not expect it because I don't think a lot of meteorologists, and I'm sure they probably do, not a lot of meteorologists really put the point saying it is fall, but there's still severe weather because the same dynamics that occur in the spring are occurring now. Cold air is coming down from the north, you still have warm air around. It's just different because in this case there's still warm air from the summer, but now cold air is coming down, unlike in the spring where there's usually a lot of cold air, warm air comes up and then the cold air tries to come back. It's
Yeah,
still the same, but it's not quite.
the jet stream's not as strong as it is in the springtime, but I will tell you that next week, I mean Thursday, Friday could be lit up in the Central Plains and even up here into the Mid Mississippi Valley. So I wouldn't put it past that. And to be honest with you, in all of my years working in Rockford, Illinois, the worst tornado events that we ever had were in November and January. So they do happen off season a lot of times.
Yeah, I could get on I could go on forever about this, but I can remember, and I remember the January event. That was the tornado that went somewhere north of Rockford or something. It went into southern Wisconsin. That was in 2008, 7.
Yeah, and I believe I believe it was the first time that we had multiple tornadoes in the state of Wisconsin in the month of January. It had never happened before, and they were all along the warm front because Madison was sucked in with fog and 42 degrees, and it got it to 70 degrees in Rockford and produced an EF3 tornado. So
The
they
the
can't.
the the thing I remember about that day is I wasn't living where I'm at now, but I was living near Cedar Rapids, between where I'm at now and Cedar Rapids. And I remember waking up to my weather radio going off for a severe thunderstorm warning at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, okay, that's weird.
Yeah,
And the temperatures were in the 40s at 5 o'clock in the morning in January. All I
sure.
remember is the next day it was cold and it snowed.
Yeah, look
Like,
up.
I don't like it.
Yeah,
It
and
was
that was the first time that the Chicago National Weather Service office had ever done a tornado survey when there wasn't actually technically snow on the ground, but there were snow piles all over the place
yeah.
when they were doing their survey, and that was the first time that had happened.
And didn't they, when we had that tornado event in November last year, wasn't there snow on the ground in some parts of there too? If I remember, especially in the northern parts of the area, because I kept thinking there may have been some snow, not on the ground, but kind of piled around in like the sheltered areas.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know the snow lasted too long this past spring.
And then melted really fast, and then it dried up. So, but we're just continuing to blab like schoolgirls. But anyway.
No, I could go on forever, but to be honest with you, I'm getting close to my bedtime. I've been up since 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, see, he's actually been drinking. So anyway,
No, actually, this is really Diet Coke because if it was anything other than Diet Coke, I'd be laying on the floor back there. So
so yeah,
it wouldn't take much on this school. I guess it's not a school night, a school day on Friday.
uh, uh, so yeah, okay. We'll say goodbye. So what
All right.
I was going to say who was going to be on, and I went on to severe weather review, and then we started off on severe weather again. After that is Rob Perillo from KETC in Lafayette, Louisiana, and then I added more people, and I can't remember who they are. Doug Hetty from KOAM in Joplin, Missouri is going to talk about the Joplin tornado. That is October 24th. And then there's that person that I got on the 17th, and I can't remember who it was. So I hope to God they're not listening. So anyway, so yeah, they won't be on now.
You just signed them up, so that'll be quite all right. But thank you for the invitation. I had a great time, and I'm on Twitter and Facebook, so all the time. In fact, the Twitter rings my phone whenever, even when I'm asleep. So you can wake me up that easy if something's going on.
Yeah. So yeah, you can find him. He's around. Not like that, but he's around. So anyway, thanks to everybody who was watching this, and thank you, Eric, for being on in the middle of your technical bedtime. So
that's quite all right. Have a good rest of the weekend.
okay, goodbye, everybody. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.